Hey team, so there ended up being a surprising number of you that did request that I do a video on my own clinical insights and observations on plantar fasciitis presentations. So over the last 8 or 10 years, I've been working with fascia and I've come to understand the human body and the human form on a completely new level. So first of all, plantar fasciitis actually has the word fascia implicated in its name. I don't know, I can't think of at this moment any other musculoskeletal complaint that actually has the word fascia contained within its name. So fascia, for those who aren't familiar or haven't seen me in my work, is a stretchy substance, stretchy fabric if you like, that connects us as a human being, and it gives us our form. So we have 12 fascial lines in our body that run from head to toe and from fingertip to fingertip across our body. It wraps around every muscle, every nerve, every tendon, every organ, every bone in our body. It is one of the most ubiquitous tissues in our body. It's very stretchable, it's very adaptable, and we want it to remain healthy. Now, plantar fasciitis is obviously something like a presentation that occurs on the soles of the feet. We get pain there. I'm going to focus today on one of the fascial lines that I see most often implicated in the plantar fasciitis presentation, and that's what we call the superficial back line. So the superficial back line actually starts, it's a fascial chain, it starts under the soles of our feet, comes up our calf, up our hamstring, across the glutes, up our paraspinals, and all the way over to our eyebrows. So when I'm touching here, I'm touching the very same fascial line, fascial chain of tissue that is on the sole of my foot. So let me give you a little demonstration with my TheraBand here. So I'm going to have my TheraBand be my superficial back line for me. So it's going to start on the underside of my foot. It's going to come up my calf, up my hamstring, up my back, and all the way over to my eyebrow. So our superficial back line helps us maintain balance when we bend forward. It gives us our elasticity and our mobility as we bend forward. So when it's an unobstructed line, so this hasn't got any knots or any restrictions or any adhesions in it, we can move really elastically. But when we get some kind of knot or adhesion just at one site, and I've just made one here right on my sort of part of my butt, when I bend forward, I've no longer got as much movement as I did before, because that fascial line is now tighter. Now, there are many things that can tighten up or create limitations within our fascial lines, and they can be repetitive postures, repetitive actions, they can be scars or surgeries, they can be emotional trauma. We can have many different reasons why our fascial lines get restrictions within them. Now, what little things that tighten up or restrict our superficial back line are things like sitting. So for instance, if I pretend I'm sitting for a moment, I've got this as a nice long straight fascial line, okay? My superficial back line starts under my foot, comes up my calf, up my hamstring, and I'm just stopping it at my butt. If I then sit down and pull this in, can you sort of see now how much floppier that is? And if I'm sitting repeatedly, my body's thinking, oh, she doesn't need that to be as long or as stretchy as it was, so I'm going to shorten it up because this is a repeated posture. This is something the body is feeding me consistently and repetitively. I need to shorten up to ensure that she doesn't get injured at that position. So then when I come to stand, that line, as you can see, is now a whole lot tighter than it was prior to me doing that sitting. So if I'm sitting and repeatedly, any repetitive pattern, the body or the fascial lines will remodel themselves. They'll shorten. Other things that shorten our superficial back line are things like swimming. So a swimmer's foot is often pointed. Now when a swimmer's foot is pointed, let me grab my thing again. If I'm going from here, the back of my heel, and then I shorten, sorry, that's not such a good picture, is it? Let me just change my hands around. That's under the heel of my foot, and I'm keeping that a nice straight line just for the purpose of the video. If I then go to point my foot, can you see how floppy that's gone? So again, that if you're repeating that motion, you're repeating that pointed toe motion, that goes floppy, the body says, no, I need to tighten that up. So then when you become a straight leg again, or a unflexed ankle, that line shortens up. Similar as dancing. Dancers spend a lot of time on their toes. People in high heels will also get shorter up that back line. So people sitting at a desk where their feet are tucked under them like so, also a shortening response in the superficial back line. And then my little sort of light bulb moment I had in bed the other day, which was kind of the reason I wanted to do this video in the first instance, was when we're lying in bed or when we have been asleep, our feet, what position are our feet in when we're in bed? If we're on our back, our feet are like so because the blankets are resting on them. If we're on our side, we're tucked up, our feet are like so. So we've got that pointed foot, or that what we call plantar flexion of the foot or of the ankle. People who get plantar fasciitis presentations, their pain is worse in the morning when they have been in that very position, that plantar flex position, being on their side or on their back. And then once they've been up and about in that straight leg position, their ankle's gone back to a true neutral angle, then it can free up. Now often we see we often see fascial presentations, so pain that results from fascial restrictions. We'll often see it at the corner or of the joint of something. So often people with plantar fasciitis, their worst area is their heel, and that's because there's a corner. So anything that has to go around the corner is going to feel, you're going to feel the restriction more so at the point of a corner. If I put this along my arm for the purpose of this demonstration, I put this here and I've got restriction, so I'm making a knot further up my arm line. If I then go to bend, when I bend that line is trying to get longer. Now the greatest force on that is then going to go on my elbow, hence tennis elbow or golfer's elbow as well. So often with tennis or golfer's elbow, there will be some kind of fascial restriction further up or down the arm lines. I've gone off track because we're talking about plantar fascia. So that's often why, in my eyes, plantar fasciitis is worse in the morning, and we often feel it through the heel because the superficial back line is having to try to stretch around that corner of the joint. Now, a couple of little things that you can do to help settle down plantar fasciitis or to help it not come in the first place. So I want you to do a little metric for me. And this little metric is best used with a broom or like a dowel rod that I've got here. So what you're going to do, and you can see the difference, I want you to see the before and after difference of me mobilizing my fascia after and the difference between what I show you in the test now. So if I bend forward, this is what we call a good morning. So this is what we use as a metric for our superficial back line, is seeing how people move in this motion. So the correct form for this is soft knees. You're hinging from your hip, and the reason I've got the stick on the back of me, so it's connecting to my head and it's also connecting to just above my tailbone, is because that's keeping me in the right form. If you're not in the right form, this will happen. Okay, so you'll disconnect the rod from the tailbone, or this will happen. Okay, so to keep the spine as a nice long straight rod, we put the dowel rod or the broomstick in place, and then we go forward as much as we can to stretch that superficial back line. So I'm just above the parallel. This is as far as I can currently get in terms of my superficial back line mobility. So now, two different things I'm going to show you to help mobilize the back line. First thing is we're going to go straight to the root of the pain. So we're going to come to the soles of the feet. So what you're going to do is with the massage ball, you're going to roll there and back through the arch of the foot, through this inside part, right through the middle, and then through the outside as well. So I'm going to place the ball under my foot, and I've got a really nice pressure, and I'm rolling 4 times there and back through that inside line with a nice amount of pressure, nice control. Once more through that inside, and then I'm going to go right through the middle, and I'm only on the arch of the foot. 4 times there and back, nice and firm. And then I'm going to go to the outside line on the arch and 4 times there and back. So it's just, think of this like you're rolling out the dough, like bread dough with a rolling pin. You're really trying to stretch out and roll out those tissues, really warm them up, get them nice and supple. Okay, and then once you've done the 4 times there and back in those 3 lines, just go through the center of the arch and you're just going to hunt out any spots that are a little bit more chatty, a bit more noisy than other spots. You're going to pressure down on that ball, and then you're going to pull your toes up and squeeze them under. Also 4 times. So I'm pressuring down, I've got quite a bit of pressure on the ball. Okay, so now I've only done 1 foot. This is like my little party trick. So I want you to see, I'm going to go back to the good morning as my metric. You're going to watch and see the difference in what I can do now. So I've changed nothing else. The stick is still connected to the back of my head and my tailbone. And I just changed my hands so that you can see where my spine is getting to. I'm now going beneath the parallel. Okay, so that's one little activity you can do to help your plantar fasciitis, is the ball rolling. Second one is just what we call a fascial mobilizer, which is just an active mobilizer. That very metric I'm using is also a superficial backline fascial mobilizer. So what we're going to do here is you're going to actually hook 1 foot up, thumbs will be next to your shoulders, knees are soft, and you're just doing the very same motion. So long as you can keep that spine nice and straight without the dowel rod. You can do this without the dowel. So I'm going to do 4 of these on one side. So I've hooked my foot up, I'm trying to pull my toes up towards my nose. Both knees are nice and soft. 4 on one side, and then I'm going to do 4 on the other side as well. Keeping the spine nice and straight, I've got my core engaged too. 1 more. And you'll feel a nice stretch, particularly behind your sort of calves and hamstrings through that too. So now I'm going to retest that same metric. Feet hip width apart, knees are soft, dowel rod's connected. And I feel like I'm going even further. Let me just change my hands. Yeah, so I've definitely got a little bit more movement. I wasn't all that restricted through my backline to start with, so in terms of how much I'm going to be able to improve, will be different to people who are more restricted there. But those are 2 little exercises that you can do both preventatively and rehabilitatively to help you with plantar fasciitis. So it's, although there are other fascial lines that can be implicated in plantar fasciitis, it's so often the superficial back line. And in practice, I'll often be doing hands-on release for those people. Not obviously I can't see everybody that's got plantar fasciitis, but those 2 little home remedies, very accessible to anybody, and they can do them every day. So I would, if you've got plantar fasciitis, I would recommend you do those daily. With the backline mobilizer, sorry, clearing my throat. With that mobilizer, it's just 4 or 5 reps per side is all you need to do, and you can do it on a cold body, so you can do it first thing out of bed in the morning, and you don't need to be warm, okay? But all you need to do is just follow the range of motion that your body will grant you at that point of time. Okay, so later in the day you might naturally get more range of motion. You can do it as many times through the day as you like, but first thing in the morning before any exercise is great. If you've got a lot of time sitting at your desk, I would get up and do that maybe once an hour, and even just 2 or 3 once an hour would be sufficient. But they are going to bring great changes to any kind of plantar fasciitis presentations. It will slowly bring relief to you, and it will put that superficial back line back into balance. All we're really doing is just creating more elasticity in that line of tissue, and we're trying to undo any knotty bits. So you're trying to pull them apart, unstick them, and create nice glide, nice free elastic motion when we do those fascial mobilizers. I think that's all I wanted to cover with me talking about plantar fasciitis. I hope I haven't missed anything, and I hope I've said that in a clear enough sort of format and layout that does make some sort of sense. And I hope there's been some light bulbs, like in terms of the things that can bring on plantar fasciitis. And like I spoke about high heels, but it doesn't just have to be high heels either. A lot of sneakers, for instance, that we train in or walk in, they have what we call a heel drop. So the heel is actually sitting higher than what the forefoot is. And because that's not natural, it's not our natural foot position or ankle position, if we're in those shoes a lot, we're naturally going to start shortening up that superficial back line, even just from that slight, it could be a centimetre of heel drop, but that's a centimetre less that your body has in that superficial back line to give to you in those sort of forward bending kind of motions, or in keeping you nice and elastic through that corner of your heel and preventing the plantar fasciitis presentations from coming on. That's 16 minutes. That's plenty of yabbering for me. Let me know if you have any questions, or send me a message or comment on this post, or yeah, I hope that's helped you. I look forward to seeing you again soon.